It's the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast hosted by Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting, and it's time to pick up that mic. Welcome to the first ever live Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast. Your eyes do not deceive you. It is not a Wednesday. It's not 3 p.m. It is 7 o'clock. We are 1 hour away from WWE's next season because they never take an off season, and we have an action-packed hour for you. We are covering everything from WrestleMania this weekend. I got King Rome joining me now. Mike from Mouthing Off with Mike will join me back later today. We're going to have the main event mics back because King Rome, without the main events of this weekend, I don't necessarily love this show. And you and I were talking about it right before we went on air. I had a very favorable night one experience. And then I kept looking back. I'm like, oh yeah, a lot of matches get cut short. And then night two for me, outside of the ladder match and outside of the main event, was a drag. I was doing this number. And you and I were talking right before we went on air. You and I have like very different opinions. You like night two. Why?
Loved it. Oh, well, first of all, foremost, how you end the show usually has a very heavy influence on how you feel about the overall show. And that was an all-time classic. That was a master class in the main event. And I loved it, how the show opened. And yeah, I actually enjoyed every match. Now, of course, and I was also mentally prepared for Commercial Mania. I was not prepared for that night one. I was not ready, but I was more mentally ready for night two. So it's like when you know a punch is coming, you can brace for it versus getting like blindsided by it. I enjoyed night one. I was one of the seemingly few people that had a good experience with it because all the feedback has been overwhelmingly negative, but I completely forgot all about it by the end of night two.
And that's a very good perspective. And I want to bring this into night one versus night two. My environment changed a little bit. You know, night one, I went over to a buddy's house. You remember Kevin coming with us to that AML show
Yes.
a couple months back. I watched night one with him. It was an incredible time. We got pizza and we watched. So like the commercials didn't bother me as much until I'm like, oh yeah, this probably took away 5 minutes from each match. And then for me, night two, I really love the ladder match, but I feel like I have a gripe with every single thing up until the main event. I mean,
okay,
Lesnar and Obafemi, if that is Brock Lesnar's last match, I don't know if it's true whether he announced it right then and didn't tell a soul, or if anyone had prior knowledge to this. You give that more than 5 minutes. Give it 10, give it 15, like give it something that we can sink our teeth into. The ladder match was phenomenal, but if you have a WrestleMania match, why is Rusev, Dragon Lee, and JD McDonough getting the jobber entrances for the ladder match? Like, let me hear their music. Let me get hyped for them. Then you had Sammy and Trick. I've never been a big Trick guy, but I do love how Sammy's playing into this heel character. Demon and Finn was good until I'm like, oh, we had the same type of match last night against Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre, and it ended the same way, a top rope table finish. Jade Cargill, probably the best match I've seen her wrestle, probably because of Rhea Ripley, probably because it was short. And then the main event was
actually, it was the longest women's match all weekend.
That's insane to me, and it shouldn't have been that way, like at all. Like, give me more AJ and Becky, give me less of Jade Cargill. But again, yeah, up until that main event, even the Danhausen segment, man, I was out on that. I'm like,
I didn't mind it.
I just, it was so goofy.
That's what he is, though.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a palate cleanser.
I don't know if my palate was very cleansed. And we are live, so just like I would do for an out of pocket, Jason commenting, shout out my brother. He dropped 3 from deep earlier today. Much love, Michael Davis. Let's go. Appreciate you, my friend. But Rome, Do you believe that Brock Lesnar is really retired? And do you believe that was his decision going into it, or do you think it was his decision right there after he took the 3?
I don't know. Yes, the first question, I do think he's done. Two, I don't know when that decision was made. And to me, when that decision was made doesn't really affect my processing of it. All I know is when it was happening, I was like, oh no, I wasn't ready for this. This is hitting me in my chest. Oh, I wasn't expecting to feel these things. And do I think it was legit? I mean, when have you ever shown Brock Lesnar show emotion? Ever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Ever.
and this
In
this
canon.
and this robs us too of Gunther and Brock Lesnar, Gunther being the
Oh
career
well.
killer, but
Oh
we
well.
also don't get Gunther and Brock Lesnar. That would have been a great match. We don't get Brock Lesnar in Saudi next year, which he's going to be a big money draw, but mainly we don't get him in Minnesota at SummerSlam. Like WWE's biggest draw in that town is gone. He's done.
Well, they can still make a story out of it. We can speculate. I think I've heard speculations that you know the favor that Gunther is owed by Paul Heyman could be him getting brought for one more match. I think whether we get it or not. If we get it, I'm happy for it. I love Gunther. I love Brock. It'd be a hell of a match. Another notch on his career scalps. But what that did for Obafemi was, we're only a day removed, so we don't feel that impact yet. But all that equity he passed to him, you know, it's on them to mess that up now. You know what I mean? And a lot of value was placed in the Obafemi last night, and I think we have. I don't know about a generational star, but definitely somebody that can headline for years to come. And I'm happy to see that torch get passed.
And Oba was the obvious choice to win that match. I didn't expect it to go for the longest time, but booking like a Mark join us, too much mania and not enough wrestle for his taste. We look back at WrestleMania moments more than entrances. So in his opinion, the storytelling in the ring should be the focus. I do want to run through. I went through the
I don't have an
times.
issue with that take.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I went through the times of night 1 on yesterday's podcast right before night 2 with my predictions, and just run through those real quick. Oba and Brock got less than 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 46 seconds. The ladder match got 15 minutes, and these are bell-to-bell times. Trick and Sammy got 7 minutes. Finn Balor and Dominic got 10 and a half. Rhea and Jade got 10, which again is the longest women's match of the weekend. And then Roman and CM Punk bell to bell got almost 34 minutes. Here's the issue with this is like you have, let's say, a Wrestle Kingdom in Japan. You're going to watch that in two very different fan bases, two very different approaches. But everybody's bringing their A game to Wrestle Kingdom. Every match is going to be at least 15 minutes, and they're going to bring their A game. Honestly, having these shorter matches, to me, especially more and more, it almost feels like they're not bringing their very best to WrestleMania. Like, I want the story to simmer inside the ring, and if they give Trick and Sammy 5 more minutes to get them up to 12, or Finn and Dominic, 5 more minutes to get them up to 15, like, these are matches that are actually probably going to benefit for more time to tell the story.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And so, like, my feedback on these matches are based on what we did get versus what we could have gotten with more time. I agree. Other than Jade Rhea, I think that was enough. Yeah, I think
you have to protect Jade Cargill somehow.
We were just fine there. We were just fine there. Hey, I love me some Jade. Calm down.
Rhea carried that one.
Of course she did, but it takes two to tango. She wasn't working with a potato.
Honestly, take Rhea Ripley versus a potato over Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill any day. I would watch that match.
I thought they did well with what they were given. As far as match times go, the wrestlers themselves aren't choosing this, and I don't want to Uh, Heck, I don't even think the bookers are choosing this. I think this is from above, and that's a bigger issue. And I don't know that that's on your rundown. Um, you could definitely feel the stark change, and I don't want to step on what's to come. But having been there last year, there's a night and day difference just from what I experienced last year versus this year. Um, as far as like feeling the matches out. Like you could feel that they were truncated this year, and that is World Wrestling advertising.
Yeah, Mr. Kid Zero with the
Oh man,
WWA, and then Rome getting a shout out from the
Big
prominent
Prom.
EEG. So thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribe to us yet, we do a lot of wrestling content, but Boom is more than just wrestling. We got basketball, football coverage. We'll have NFL round 1 coverage this Thursday night. So a lot of stuff, and we dropped a lot of content this past week for WrestleMania, and we appreciate y'all's support. If this is the first time you're finding us as we count down to Monday Night Raw and close the chapter to WrestleMania. But you said you didn't hate night 1, you didn't love night 1, but after watching night 2, like, it just
Night and
made
day.
night
It
1
felt night
feel
and day.
bad.
It felt inferior by far. And basically my feelings on night 1, and see, this is why I like to enjoy in my own space versus, seeking out opinion, at least at first, because I enjoyed it. But my feelings when it was over was it felt incomplete. It felt like I don't know if anybody here has gotten an incomplete in a course in school. It's not a great feeling. But
Yeah, we don't have to go there. We don't have to go there.
yeah. But it felt incomplete, as in like I still need more to judge on. It unlike in previous since the 2 night era began, this was the first time I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to wait for night 2 before I can really say how I feel on this, because it just felt like a comma at the end of the sentence versus a period. I'm like, okay, but then what? And I think environment, that's something you brought up, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the environment within which you consume the product definitely has an impact on how you feel about it. Had I been sitting in my room alone watching it, I might have picked up on the the short matches and the heavy ads more than I did. But I was watching it with one of my homegirls, so in between matches, I'm filling her in on the storylines because she doesn't watch week to week like I do. So I, because I was in that positive environment, the excitement was still there. Did some stuff fall flat? Yeah, but I didn't feel like it was this horrible, awful, worst Mania of all time people were saying it was. I was like, calm down, we still have another night to go.
And honestly, I feel like night 2, especially with, what we were following up with, because my expectations were like, okay, the build isn't great. We talked about that all last week. You were on the podcast last week, and we covered that. But I felt like, okay, they hear this. Like, Triple H has listened to the fans for years, ever since taking over creative. 39 was great. 40 was amazing. 41 was good, even if people were like, that's not the main event I wanted. It's the story they were telling. And I genuinely went into this weekend. I'm like, okay, you have to deliver in the ring. And honestly, they delivered more with advertisements, and they may have made a lot of money to make up for the empty seats in Vegas. Like, they were Rome, they were bragging about 50,000 fans, and
I'm so like sickened when they do that. At least they're not doing the highest grossing thing anymore, because that was just blatant, transparent.
It wasn't.
Yeah, because I got so disgusted by them doing that. Just like you, congratulations, you are the highest grossing crowd, aka let me translate corporate speak to you. Congratulations, you just spent the most money that anybody ever has on this product. And I'm just like, this is disgusting.
And we got some comments rolling in. Mr. Kid Zero, I think TKO thinks they can book wrestling like UFC boxing, wearing throwaway and undercard, not care long as the main event is good. No one will care. Okay, kid you not.
That'll only last for so long.
I had the exact thought. It felt like they didn't put much into the undercard. It felt like a UFC event where we have all these quick bouts, and then the main event is actually the draw, and they try to save it through. That's not how wrestling works. That's not how wrestling fans are wired. We're not wired to be like, oh, we're just looking forward to the main event. No, you have to keep their intention the entire time throughout the show, or they're not going to be invested in the main event as much as they could be. And those main events were great. I really think Cody, Randy, and Roman Punk were two of the better main events, and it can stand the test of time. But you look at the rest of the show, and you might be fast forwarding if you're watching on demand in the future. Like, you never want to have fans be like, okay, they're turning this into the UFC, or just, honestly, the Super Bowl. Like, are they trying to market this as much as, hey, you need to get your ad on WrestleMania and we're going to charge you out the wazoo for it? Because right now it just feels like
Well, that's
TKO
kind
is
of a
having
cart
too
versus
much of an influence.
yeah, that's kind of a cart before the horse mentality. If all you care about is selling this as an ad platform, well, you got to get the eyes there first, and you're pissing off your main your core audience, and then like what's going to happen? Yeah, you're not going to feel that impact immediately, and that's the problem because they're still going to bring in the dough because it's WrestleMania, and they're going to view this as a success in the short term because money, 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 money. That's all that matters, right? But slowly over time, if you don't keep that core fan engaged, they'll spend their dollars elsewhere. You're not just competing with AEW, if you can call that competition. You're competing with the NFL. You're competing with the NBA. It's if you are dead set on keep bringing back to Vegas, you're competing with Cirque du Soleil. You're competing with the Strip. You can't operate with this arrogance that people will always be there.
Yeah.
We've seen in WWE's history, we will leave.
Yeah, and we're not afraid of that. And this is a good point because you said you knew what to expect when going into night 2, and that helped elevate your experience. Booking like a Mark asked, do you feel we could ever see a time when WWE actually separates WrestleMania into 2 nights, with one specifically focusing on wrestling, one with more focus on aura, so we know what to expect?
I think they already do that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
How do you feel like they split this up then?
So this year is not the best representation of it, but like night 1 is kind of like the March night, and then night 2 is typically like the casual night.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and study it because honestly, I had a different thing. Like, if you try to split these audiences and people know what they're going to want to see, they may just totally disregard one of the nights. Potentially. But
See,
you
it's like an
also,
unspoken thing. Like if you make it like if you're more asking like if they start marketing it that way, that would be a really
bad idea.
Because like you said, they'll start just ignoring it, or people will just go to the one that they want versus and it's like forgive me with Shatter, I think it might have been Booking Like a Mark who said too much mania, not enough wrestling. And that's the thing.
Exactly
it's gotta be both. You know what I mean? And you can't lose the plot and forget what brought you to the dance. Don't forget what the W stands for. And we need the mania too, but it's got to blend the two together in a nice emulsion. You know what I mean? And let's see how next year goes. Let's see how the rest of this year goes. But I definitely I saw some things that concern me.
Yeah, I saw some things that concerned me too. And Mr. Kid Zero, if you cut out some ads, you could fit all the matches on one card, considering it's total like 2.5 hours of total wrestling time. And Mr. Kid Zero, I don't want to blow your mind even further, but the amount of ad time was very, very close to 2.5 hours of total wrestling time. That is, I mean, I just don't want to focus on this, but like we have to, because look
it's what
back
they put in
to
front of
your
us.
historic WrestleManias where they were pay-per-view. You paid $60, $70 to watch a pay-per-view. I mean, you may have gotten like a few ads here and there, but it was nowhere close to what we got this past week, where you're cutting out entrances for more ads. You already have the sponsors on the mat where you're getting money. You're already having matches
Oh,
sponsored
those look
by
horrible.
Riyadh Season, and I mean it just looks
The Slim
bad.
Jim
So it's
table.
already there. Oh my gosh! Like, I mean, like, what are we going to do? Like,
Is the Prime bottle still sitting there?
we can't have a show without Prime. You know,
Yeah.
um, it's just it's so bad because honestly, I thought this like, why wasn't this one night? If the matches are going to be so short, why not just make this a one night marathon again? If
That's what you
50,000
wish.
fans are going to be
Careful what
there,
you wish for.
I mean, no, like if 50,000 fans are going to be there, like don't make them come a second night if you're just going to give them that amount of
Yeah.
wrestling. Like it honestly felt like a fan convention where you're just trying to see like your favorite stars wrestle for a few minutes, come out with a big entrance rather than WrestleMania where you're like, okay, all these wrestlers have been preparing for this moment, for this night all year, and they're here, they're trying to make the most of it, and you give them 7 minutes to work with bell to bell. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, hey, you remember what was it about almost not quite 15 years ago, but more than 10. But remember, give these divas a chance.
Yeah.
We're about to start a new movement. Give wrestlers a chance.
Give everybody a chance. Give everybody
Give wrestlers a chance.
So with that said, there were 6 matches on WrestleMania Sunday. There were 7 on WrestleMania Saturday. Would you have, made the case to knock out one of the matches on WrestleMania Saturday to a lot more time for another match? Like, I don't know, Liv Morgan, Stephanie Vaquer?
Would I? So no, the answer is cut the mats. But if you're talking about specifically given the confines of what they had to work with, I mean, it's always going to be a tough decision to cut somebody's time. I'm trying to remember what matches were. I know there were 3 women's matches. The tag match. There was the man. We didn't even get to like the big return, but yeah, there was a tag match. There was Stephanie and Liv. Oh, and Becky, AJ, and yeah, I wouldn't cut any of those. I guess the most likely to get cut would be the tag match, but I thought the tag match it had potential, and it definitely had one of the biggest moments of the weekend. But there's that word again, moments.
Yeah.
we love our moments.
Yeah. And Mr. Kid Zero bringing up a good point and doesn't let you digest versus WWE where you're like, okay, let's get to it. You brought it up, Paige. That is a WrestleMania moment. I never thought
I did not see that coming. Apparently it was leaked, but I didn't hear about it. So I'm glad I didn't know.
So I heard she had signed with WWE. My initial reaction was like, okay, she's back in ambassador role. That's nice. But I had rumors that Nikki wasn't cleared to compete. And I was hoping
that I had heard
that they would be able to do. And honestly, with the amount of wrestling, they probably could have pulled it off where Nikki could have still been on the apron. But
hey, with the amount of time they were given.
I mean, honestly, but I mean, once I saw 4 women in the ring at the same time, I'm like, okay, this match isn't going to last long. They all need to get their stuff in. So they modify the rules a little bit. But Paige, honestly, like outside the main events, that might be your WrestleMania moment of the weekend. Am I wrong?
You talking about the whole weekend?
I'm talking about the whole weekend. Paige coming back might be the WrestleMania moment of the weekend.
Did we not see the greatest of all time get his title back?
outside the main events. That's the caveat.
Okay. I missed that part. My bad. Okay, so out of the whole weekend, so that's the biggest moment.
That had the biggest pop. I mean, it could have been Finn Balor returning
as the demon. Yeah, but see, we already knew about that. But
we already knew about it. We already knew about it.
I still think seeing that because we hadn't had it in what 2 years?
3.
Wow.
Yeah, WrestleMania 39 against Edge.
Wow. Yeah. And he lost.
I still think Paige is.
It's up there. It's definitely up there. I don't have the full rundown in front of me, but there are very few things that like jumped out in my mind, and that's one of them. So yeah.
But one of the highlights I want to get to is that ladder match. I did think Penta, Javon, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Rusev, Rey Mysterio. I think that 6-man ladder match for their Intercontinental title did live up to expectations. I want to make that very clear. Honestly, might be one of my favorite multi-man ladder matches in WrestleMania history. Is
Uh,
that too much of a stretch, or do I just need to let this digest a
I
little bit?
might be the wrong person to ask because I'm not a fan of ladder matches, but
Wow. Hot
yeah,
take.
I did enjoy it for what it was. Whoever does the wardrobe, whoever's in the wardrobe department needs to be like not fired. I'm not here for people losing their jobs, but definitely needs some reprimanding because how do we have 3 people wearing the same outfit? It looked like a tag match, but no. I enjoyed it. Javon, was that my pick? I can't even remember. I know I didn't have Penta winning. I think I had either Mysterio or Javon winning, but
I think
it
you
was a
had
good match.
Javon.
And at the end of the day, I think that was the right call, keeping it on Penta. There's still time to tell Javon's story. I think it actually would have hurt him more winning it too soon because now you got that fight, that one-on-one story that he can build up to. Penta hasn't even really wet his feet yet as champion, and there's still a lot of story to tell there. I mean, the dude is oozing with aura, and he's still barely scratched the surface with what he can do in WWE. So I'm not mad at that. Him retaining, it was a fun match. Definitely a lot of spots where I cringed, and I was like, "Oh boy," but they came, they did their thing, and it was definitely one of the more fun matches of the weekend.
And we'll say this, and we have about 30 more minutes until Raw, and I'll have another guest on here in a few minutes. But I wanted to throw this out at you because it was the main event of night 2, WrestleMania weekend. It's the moment that matters the most. It's the vision that people will see. Can make a bad WrestleMania good, can make a good WrestleMania great, however you end the night. And as much crap as we've talked the last 27 minutes, Roman Reigns did reclaim his throne, became world heavyweight champion for the first time in his career. He looks really good with that belt. But what stood out to me, Rome, was there was no bloodline. There was no interference. There was no outside shenanigans. Do you think they did that right? Or would you have preferred a bloodline reunion last night, WrestleMania? Because honestly, like just those two alone, I feel like they had magic.
Okay, you definitely asked the right person for this one. Masterclass from the opening note of those pianos from Roman song to them bringing back the head of the table song to Punk's entrance. Oh my god, I got chills watching Punk's entrance, and the match, the way, I mean, you could feel the hatred, but you could also feel the mutual respect. I mean, they had to throw everything they had at each other. No bloodline interference was the perfect decision because, hey, listen, he doesn't need them. He never needed them. That was what made him such a horrible heel. It's like, you don't need this, so why are you doing this? Why are you cheating all the time? You're already great. That was part of what made him evil. You know what I mean? So him on his redemption arc, no, he's right where he needs to be. And this was, this is not my take. This is something I heard from others. So this is not a unique thought, but this is the first time with Roman as a champion on a main event stage as a face where he's universally accepted, cheered, and acknowledged. And this is going to be like this. I don't know how long this run is going to be. It ain't going to be 13, 16. We know that for sure. But whether it's a 3 month, 6 month, 1 year run, I think this is going to be his career defining run. And I'm excited for it.
Well, and I absolutely love that take because Roman Reigns was shoved down people's throats for so long as the big dog, and there was a large amount of people was like, why don't you just turn him heel? And then once he became heel, like people loved him, and then people wanted to see the title off of him, and now he's committed to. Apparently, this is what's being said: is he will be full time, at least for the summer. And so
Yeah,
if we're getting Roman week in and week out, he might not wrestle every week, but he is going
and
to
he
come
shouldn't.
out and he's an attraction. And you can tell they're trying to get better with Monday Night Raw and Netflix and everything. Roman Reigns is your tribal chief, is your head of the table. And I'm glad you brought up that little caveat that not a lot of people caught. He brought back the head of the table theme. And you notice he dropped it when he wasn't chasing a title. And now he brought it back. And I just hope that's his theme moving forward.
Oh, I'm excited.
Dude, I'm having a blast, and you wondered what was going to be next for him as well. Oba Femi kind of called him out. Oba's not ready yet. I I think he had a great match, a great moment, but Oba's not ready for Roman Reigns. I feel like
Not
they
yet,
need to
no.
keep those away from each other for as long as possible.
Yeah, we don't want to squash that momentum on day one.
Yeah, but like you said, Oba Femi was quite the attraction right there when it comes to what we're doing as wrestling fans. And Rome, if you're okay with it, we got a couple more minutes with you before mouthing off with Mike comes on. Is there anything else you saw that stood out to you when it came to this WrestleMania?
As far as standing out goes, everything that jumped off the page to me we've already covered in depth. I, Going forward, I hope that they understand what we want from them as fans going forward, because you saw what we were loudest for. It was undeniable. You know, good, strong characters with equity that we've invested our time, emotions, and energy into. Put them up against a force that makes us want to root for them against that force, and the stories will write themselves. And then put them in conflict with each other and give them time, not just time in matches, but time to let the stories breathe, crescendo. And then when you get to WrestleMania, or even if it's not WrestleMania, you've got SummerSlam, you got Survivor Series, and all the PLEs in between. When you give us good, strong characters with a strong foundation and a reason for being, and an opposing force with an equally strong reason for being, in conflict with them, that's what we want. You don't have to throw all this riffraff in there. You don't have to throw all this extra dressing on it. Yeah, in some small cases, it may enhance it. Like Lil Yachty, I thought he was very additive to Trick Williams as a presentation. But we saw equally, if not more, detrimental in the other direction when you throw people that have nothing to do with a story into it for absolutely no reason, a la Pat McAfee. And actually, the one thing that did stand out the most was I think they understood how wrong they were, because they were quick to write that off.
And dude, I wanted that. I don't know if it was you I was talking to it about or somebody else last week, but it was so important to get Pat McAfee out of there. And they did a great job. They even reintroduced him, but not in a way that had fans being like, oh, because if he was there the entire time, it would have been a stinker for a lot of people. And to their credit, like people were like crapping on that main event, but dude, like it was good. And then
It was
going back,
good when it could have been great, though.
it could have been great. But I feel like there's so much stuff they want us to pick up on. And Booking Like a March says this is the most convoluted way to set up a world title match between Roman Reigns and The Rock for WrestleMania 43. You know, if
Oh boy. Oh boy.
if it's
Let me ask
Saudi,
y'all. In 2026 and what will be 2027 by the time Mania 43 comes around, are we really still clamoring for Roman Rock? Me personally, as a huge Roman fan, I have to admit my bias. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. And, at times I've been a fan of Dwayne. I don't want to see that anymore. The time for that passed. Me personally. I don't know that I really want to see that anymore.
Nah, I want to watch it. I want to watch it. And honestly, if you're going to Saudi, like that's the best time to do it because you need to get like all the bigger names, which is why it was a huge shock that Brock Lesnar retired last night. Lesnar was probably like, I don't want to be retired by Gunther. I don't want to go to Saudi, and I don't want to risk ruining my hometown SummerSlam. But that one just made your jaw drop to the floor. It's crazy. Like the biggest surprise of the weekend, WWE apparently didn't even write.
Well, shout out to Brock.
Shout out to Brock.
Yeah.
Dude, it blew my mind. I was like, because honestly, yeah, you're watching it and you're like,
I could feel something coming. Like the way Oba left the ring and he did a little tip of his cap, and then Brock was just sitting there, and I was like, whoa, hold on. I was waiting for the I was waiting for the Gunther music, but then when it didn't come, I was like, no, don't do this to me. I'm not emotionally prepared for this. And then he started taking off his gloves. I was like, oh no, you can't be serious. And then it just it went dead silent there for a second. I was like, wow.
And you can really bookend this with, like, I mean, Brock Lesnar debuted in 2002. And,
yeah, he's old.
Between 2002 and 2014 is when he had a dominant 2-year run. He left to do the UFC. He came back and was a part-timer, but he beat the streak in 2014. And then from 2014 to 2026, then you got Brock Lesnar reaping the benefits of being the one to conquer the streak and lengthy world title reigns and, major feuds. And over the last few years, I mean, he's been the one to like put over other competitors like Roman Reigns,
he's
like
been doing
Cody
it.
Rhodes.
He's not going to do it for everybody, but like he helped Seth, Roman, Cody. Yep. I'm trying to think of, I can't think of too many others throughout that time, but like I said, it's like when you have a box office attraction like that with all that brand equity, it's not just Brock's equity that you're dealing with. He has now passed on the lineage of Undertaker's career. If you think about it from like in a spiritual sense, because a lot of that equity was passed to Brock when he beat the streak, and he carried that aura for the next 10, 12 years, and now he's passing that on to Oba. And, it's sprinkled in a little bit elsewhere too. And, you can also put somebody over in losses. Like, look how good AJ looked against Brock. Look how good Daniel Bryan looked against Brock. He gave a lot to them, even in his own victories. He was pushed to the limit. Brock does what you pay him to do, and he'll do what you tell him to do, but it's got to make sense. Like, he's a combat athlete in multiple disciplines. You're not going to just put anybody over him. You know what I mean?
And that makes me think like this was his choice to just drop his gloves.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He definitely had some. Oh, yeah. For that was all him. Because only he can say when it's over.
Dude, I have a hard time thinking WWE had no inclination when Brock Lesnar walked out the curtain. Maybe Paul Heyman didn't, but with all the production and Oba leaving and, tipping his hat and
a company of that scale, nothing goes on their screens that isn't at least accounted for. You know what I mean? Now, is everybody clued in? No. Not to everything. I don't know anything. I don't work there, but this is just common sense. This is a massively scaled corporation. Nothing goes on their screen without somebody knowing about it. Even if it's just one person calling the shots. Like Triple H had to be clued in because they planned the time for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. If that wasn't planned, Brock would have just rolled out under the bottom rope, walked out, and that would have been Oba Femi's music playing, and him in the ring, doing his. But who left the ring first?
Oba.
The victor. How often do you see the victor leave the ring first?
Not often.
So yeah, it may have been spontaneous, but it was planned spontaneity, if that even makes sense.
Yeah, it blew my mind, and was one of the biggest surprises of this year's WrestleMania. I don't want to, start going back on a downward slope, but when it comes to bookending like the 2-night WrestleManias, do you think this is the worst one?
No,
Or
it's
do you need
not
time to sit?
possible. No, it's not possible for it to be the worst one because the first one had no crowd.
Okay, but okay. I'll give you that. But honestly, they had a reason to not be good. Like
Yeah,
Kobe
of
May had
course.
a reason not to
They
be
were
good.
thrown into it. It's not like they did it because it was their choice.
This one, they had every chance to not be bad.
Yeah.
And so I weigh it like that.
I guess if we're just judging it based on, let's say 37 on, because 36 was the COVID one, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're doing 37 on, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't remember much from 37. Was that wasn't the Drew one because he didn't get his moment in front of a crowd. I can't even remember
37 was Roman, Edge, and Daniel Bryan.
The smash him and the stack him and smash him. Okay, that one. Okay, but I don't remember a single other match.
I believe Bianca.
Was that Bianca
and
Sasha?
Was night 1, and then the triple threat was night 2.
Then I guess you got to put those over. But see, night 2 was so strong for me that I can't do that because
you love that.
Punk Roman is better than anything I've seen. I don't want to get into the hyperbole game and say ever, but definitely in the last 5 years. 40 is the only thing touching it. 40 is the only thing touching it.
Did give you more Brett Shawn vibes from that WrestleMania? And hear me out. Brett Shawn went an hour. It was an Iron Man match. That's what it was. From curtain to curtain, Roman and Punk kind of gave you an hour. With the entrances, with the celebration, with the video package. But I feel like genuine disdain for one another in this feud. And they went and locked horns at WrestleMania and put on an all-time classic just in the ring on their work alone. Exactly. I feel like it's very Brett Shawn.
Yeah, I let off our discussion by calling it a master class, and it was like 2 or 3 percentage points away from perfection. It wasn't 100. There were some nitpicks I had, but like I'm not gonna like look for the needle in the haystack here trying to pick nits when let me tell you how I described this to my homeboy because we were discussing this earlier today. The biggest difference between night 1 and night 2, especially, let's just talk about the main events. And caveat here, I love all 4 competitors that were in the main events. Cody's been given a raw deal these last few years, so I don't know how much of that is on him versus how much is what he's been given. But when it came to Randy Cody, I was only half engaged. The second Punk Roman came on, my phone was sitting over here on my bed. Didn't look at it the entire time. I might have heard it beep a couple times, didn't even blink. I was fixated on the screen. I did not look away from the screen one time during Punk Roman. Whereas during Cody Randy, there were a couple times I was sitting there like, okay. And I like both of them. It's not even, it didn't have the same weight and gravity to it. And it wasn't just the match. Again, you said it was a well-worked match. I'm sure it was, but I didn't have the same investment in it.
Yeah. We could talk about this forever, and
We could,
I'm sure we're going
but
to
we
get
have a better
into
source.
weeks.
We have a better source for this.
Yes, and so a buddy of mine was actually at this event for a couple nights. Rome, you went to WrestleMania last year and gave me great
Yes.
insight. But Rome, thank you for staying with me on Drop
Thank
the
you for
Mic.
having
And
me.
our first live, we're about 15 minutes away from Monday Night Raw. Rome, I will relieve you of your duties and wish you
Yes.
best of luck in your future endeavors. We always know after WrestleMania, it's budget cut time.
Yes, yes, yes,
But
yes,
we'll
yes.
bring you back just like
And I'm
Matt
a mid Carter,
Cardona.
let's be honest. Hey,
Well,
I appreciate you always having me, man. And hey, this was you said the first live?
first live for Drop the Mic.
So would you say this would be your first night or maybe night one of this podcast?
It went better than night one of this past weekend.
Mr. Night One strikes again.
Mr. Night One.
And on that, I'm out of here.
Rome, appreciate you, my friend. And then guess what, guys? We are 15 minutes away from Monday Night Raw, the new season beginning, and I miss this. I miss this so much. The main event mics are back. Can you believe your screens right now?
We're here, ladies and gentlemen. We're here. Oh my goodness. It's like we haven't done this in so long that I was worried that you were gonna forget my name. But then I remembered, we have the same name. So, it's okay, Right. What a shock.
Same name.
I loved Rome. I loved talking and listening to Rome while I was hanging out backstage. And giving his insights into Roman and Punk, because that's exactly how I felt sitting there in the arena. I did not blink one eye during that main event. It was probably the match of the weekend for me, 100%.
Really?
And
Ladder
match close second.
King Rome saying the real main event has arrived.
What a guy.
Man, appreciate him big time. Big buddy of mine. You said it yourself. You were there. And I know you were really critical too about some of the times for WrestleMania, Mike. What was your response and reaction just being there live?
So, the crazy thing about a live event is you don't realize how much time has gone by as you're sitting there, right? You're watching, you're watching the entrances, you're hearing people chant, you're seeing, all these different bright lights and flashing images all around the world, in the arena. So you're like, oh, I don't even realize, what time it is. I didn't realize how short the matches were on night one until Stephanie and Liv, because I was sitting there watching, waiting for them to get into the next gear. And we're talking, we're cruising down, and I'm like, all right, they're about to hit, gear 3, right? And then the match ended. And we looked at the clock, and it was 5:45 at the finish of the match. And it just happened 5:32. And then my buddy texted me, who was watching home, and said, you're not going to believe this. That match was only 5 minutes. And I said, no way. And then social media outrage came up shortly thereafter on my Twitter. And that's when I realized, oh my God, night one flew by. Like, all of those matches did not get any time.
Yeah. And honestly didn't let it simmer. And I like as a fan there live, like getting to experience it, like, you really couldn't tell. But, do you think you'd go back and watch and see like, oh my gosh, like this match could have been 10 times better? Do you feel robbed?
Just from, listening to you guys this week when you guys were talking on your shows after night one and seeing social media reaction and everybody texting me and, saying, oh my gosh, there's so many commercials, Mike. Are you getting commercials in the building? Are they doing anything fun in the building? I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I was there live in attendance. And when you guys were on commercial break, we were on commercial break in the arena. Nothing was happening. Maybe Joe and Corey were talking in between matches. They would show a video clip on the Jumbotron. We saw entrances that you guys didn't get to see last night. Like Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Rusev. We saw those entrances. I found out that you guys didn't see any of them.
They gave him the jobber entrance for WrestleMania because in real life commercials is crazy.
No, legitimately, Rome. We like, when you go to Raw and SmackDown and they have those like in between sections when they're like doing the commercial and they're setting up the next segment. We got that, but like take it as like 30 minutes in between matches. So you can literally run up, go to the bathroom, get a drink, get food, and by the time you got back, they're just now making an announcement over the speakers about, oh, tonight's WrestleMania attendance was 50,000, like all that BS.
And West War Room Rivals love seeing the mics back on the screen together. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I swear it wasn't like that last year in person. He was there night one for Roman Punk Rollins. Appreciate you, West War Room Rivals. They have a great YouTube channel. You guys can go subscribe to that as well.
It wasn't as bad last year, if I can recall, but there was still a lot. There was some stop and go last year, but then last year we got what we always get during a WrestleMania: backstage segments.
We got none.
Filler. There was nothing. I was wondering that as I sat in the arena, night one and night two, I was like, I wonder when we're on commercial if they're seeing like, Byron Saxton backstage interviewing, Dan Housen or like a Stacy Keibler, just something random. None of that, huh?
None. Absolutely none, man. It felt like they didn't use their time wisely. And there's a picture going on right now where the in-ring time for these matches matched the amount of time for the ads. And to me, that's unacceptable, especially when you look at previous historic WrestleManias where you're like, oh man, we got match after match after match. We got, this hype video. I don't remember outside of the main events. I don't remember seeing a hype video.
We did get the hype videos in person. I will say
Wow.
we did get those. We did get those at least. That was the one thing. I mean, if you guys want some non advice, like, I'll give you some advice off the air. You can check me out, DM me, tweet at me at MOWM_podcast. I'll give you guys some advice and tips and tricks to get around some of the overage of commercials. And I'll give you a hint. It's a 3-letter word that starts with V. That's how you get around the commercial breaks. Ends with N, Mike. Has a P in there. Yeah. Now you're just put it together. If it starts with a V, it ends with an N, and it has a P in the middle.
Why did the man go pee in his van?
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
Sounds a little gross.
Find out.
But there were some big moments, like Paige returning, Brock Lesnar dropping his gloves. Like, do you feel like
genuinely shocked at that? Paige, thanks to WrestleOps, Paige got spoiled for me Friday at WWE World. I'm in line to meet Sean Spears and Dragon Lee, and somebody goes, "No way," and I'm like, "What?" And I look on Twitter, and the first thing I see is Paige has signed a multi-year deal to return to WWE, and I go, "Oh, great." Our boy Nip Ram from Four Sides of the Ring had a great theory that Paige was going to return, and then AJ Lee was going to retain the title and show up Monday, and Paige was going to challenge her Monday on Raw tonight for the Intercontinental Championship. A little call back to 2014. No, Paige takes over for Nikki Bella, which you got to feel for poor Nikki Bella there, man. I felt bad for her.
Dude, honestly, with as short as the match was, Roman and I were just talking. You could have easily just had Nikki still compete, but just stand on the apron. Nobody would have noticed.
Honestly, you probably could have just had her put on her boots and just, had her hang on the apron. Yeah, nobody would have noticed, genuinely. What's some of the hot buzz things that you want to know with 5 minutes left here to go till Raw?
They kept announcing the attendance for 50,000. That's a low number in general. Did it sound like the crowd was excited, like in the arena, or did it feel like, oh wow, there's not a lot of people here?
Listen, it was a lot of people there. Now this year's stage setup, they kind of pushed it a little bit further back into the setup so they could put more kind of people around it. The floor sections were not as big as last year. So I think that's where the 10,000, 15,000 ticket differential comes from, is the floor seating, and the riser sections were a lot more compact. They were not like last year. I think the risers rows went all the way up to like 45 rows. This year, I think it was like 25, 30 was the rows. So it was a lot of, there was a lot of empty seats on the floor. In our section, there was an entire 6 seats behind us that were empty. They were resale tickets.
Wow.
Resellers, I guess, decided, you know what? We're not going to drop the ticket prices. We're just going to take the loss. So there were a lot of tickets that did go unsold in our section alone.
Wow. And yeah, that's crazy. And Rome asking, is anyone ever going to call on their 100,000 people claims? Does Mike count as 2 people? Does it matter?
I mean, as a counter question, does it even matter? No, I don't think it does. I mean, at the end of the day, they're counting the turnstile number, so even if, night 1, there was 50,000 or 48,000 there, and then they're saying night 2, there's 55,000 there. I would have to genuinely call utter BS on 55,000. There was not 55,000 there night 2. There, I'll give you 50,000. There was at least 50,000 there. At least. I do not think there was 55,000 people there. Now, I think for night 2, from what I heard kind of through the grapevine, listening, talking to people, a lot of tickets went out to the high rollers in Vegas. There was a lot of comp tickets for night 1, but there was just as many for night 2, I heard.
In terms of a in-person experience, which night do you feel was best? Like, not even taking like night 2?
Night 2. Night 1 is a travesty, and I feel so bad for all of the talent that were on night 1, including my guy Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton in the main event there. I feel very bad for all of the talent involved on night 1. Night 1 will probably go down as one of the top 3 worst WrestleMania nights.
Wow.
For me personally, in an in-person viewing, it was not a fun view. And that's not any outside influence. That's not me having any beef with security. That's not me having any beef with the fans around me, anything like that. Me not caring about WWE, whatever. Genuinely night 1, because I was looking forward to a lot of those matches on night 1, particularly the women's tag match, Liv and Steph, Gunther and Rollins, Drew and Jacob. All of these matches, the number one thing out of my mouth and Haley's mouth and Kyle from OTM and all of the people that I talked to, at WrestleMania, more time. 5 minutes for this match, 10 minutes for this match.
Yeah. And I feel like you guys were even cheated out of like a big pop moment by them announcing the Demon was coming back a few weeks ago. Like, dude, I couldn't help but think that entrance, like y'all would have popped so hard if the Demon entrance happened and you had no prior knowledge.
That was my big gripe on my predictions was, why did we spoil the Demon? That's we haven't seen that character in 3 years. The big thing for me was, I have to say, they did a good job of making the Demon look sick even when it was broad daylight. Guys, this was what tripped me out this year. Never, even in all of the West Coast WrestleManias I've been to, I get out and it's dark. We left Saturday and Sunday night. It was still sunny out. And the sun
had the rest of the night.
The sun didn't set for at least another hour after that. So that was That was a trip. The biggest part for me, we stayed at the hotel the wrestlers were staying at. And we saw a lot of wrestlers. We saw a lot of them. I didn't talk to any of them because they're not there to meet and greet with us. And I say this to all of you watching this. I would come out of my hotel room at 2:00 in the morning to go to the casino floor to gamble. 35, 40 people will be right off the elevator, waiting, bombarding, moshing, surrounding these people. The talent could not go an inch without having a crowd follow them. With the people, the autograph resellers, with their big books of binders of stuff. That was my least favorite part of it. I'm a regular Joe. I'm an everyday guy. They're not looking for me, but it was really weird that every time I would come off the elevator, I'd have 13 necks peek around the corner and look like I should have been like, yeah, I wrestled for GCW, a Maniac Mike. You want my autograph? And then I would have put FU on their books.
You really should have. You really should have. Yeah,
I
guys.
started shaming him. I started telling him, "What are you waiting here for?" "Oh, well, we're just waiting for some wrestlers." I was like, "That's weird behavior," and I'd walk away.
It's kind of weird, especially if you're making a regular guy, uncomfortable. You're going to make one of these wrestlers uncomfortable who, also did the meet and greets during WWE World. And
Poor
I mean,
Julia last night, 1 o'clock in the morning, we're going up to the room. Poor Julia is trying to run to her hotel room and she has to cut through 10, 15 guys. Stop. Be better. The bad eggs out there make us look bad. The normal fans, be better. Other than that, it was a great time.
Hey, great time. It is actually 8 o'clock, but we're going to go a few minutes, more just to get a couple questions out of you. And plus, they're probably going to have 10 minutes
Yeah,
of recaps and ads and
recap and
whatever.
everything. Who cares?
So, what was your favorite match from attending WrestleMania?
Favorite match for me, definitely, it comes to Punk and Roman from night 2. A very close second there for me is the ladder match. That was a very good ladder match. It was. That's where I would, for at least for night 2, night 1, I did enjoy Gunther and Seth, even though it was shorter than anticipated. And Drew and Jacob was a good opener, or second match.
Yeah. And especially being on ESPN a little, probably watered down from what it could have been. I wish they didn't bill that as an unsanctioned match, especially if you were putting it on that first hour for free. We kind of got robbed there, but we all know AEW can do better hardcore matches than WWE ever could. But that ladder match, I told Rome, probably one of my favorite multi-man ladder matches. Might stand the test of time.
It was a really good one, and when you look at it on paper, you look at like the guys in the match, and you're like, okay, I know the luchadors they're gonna show out, right? You knew Dragon Lee and Penta were gonna do something absolutely wild in this match. Rey Mysterio surprised me here. Rusev, JD McDonough really surprised me with their performances. I thought Rusev looked the best he's looked in that match, and he didn't really have that much offense in that match.
There was a time I thought they were about to get him the title. I didn't think it was going to happen. I mean, I was between Penta, Javon, and Ray, but Rusev getting that Intercontinental title last night could have had a very TNT-like run.
Could have.
But, I mean, that's how good he looked.
JD, when it's all said and done about it, I predict JD McDonough by the end of this year will get a thank you for doing what you did in that match, and thank you for the crazy spots you're willing to take. Genuinely, I think JD McDonough probably going to get a championship at the end of this year, just for that Canadian Destroyer off the ladder.
The ladder. Oh my goodness!
Listen, I watched him hit that thing, and I the guy's an incredible seller, but I thought that was it for him. He didn't move the way he just corpsed out of the ring. I was like, oh my God, did we just watch a man get put to sleep for real?
And the one guy you didn't mention that match yet was Javon Evans. And
incredible.
He had so many spots, but he would pop right back up after one spot and do another amazing one. He could have been the youngest Intercontinental champion if he won last night, but there is still time, and I feel like his performance last night gave him the opportunity to eventually become the youngest champion.
What a standout performance for him. Like, we all knew listen, I'll give him the credit. He and the North Carolina boys knew that this kid was going to be a big to-do. Nit Ram, Marcus, Mike, Shannon, Sean, all my NC guys. They've been talking about this kid for years. We saw him in Deadlock Pro Wrestling for a bit, and that put him on the map for NXT. Just much like Obafemi is a star now, Javon Evans is a star. He's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome, and getting more the fan interaction stuff. They need to be checked, time and place. King Rome, I'll give you time to skip the ads on Netflix. And Jason, Mike and Mike, these guys, dude. Oh,
the Knicks are back.
It's perfect. We're back. But real quick before we get to Raw, how do you want them to follow this up with? Like, this is the last question I'll ask you, but I mean, for tonight's Raw, like to be a Raw after Mania, what do you expect and what do you need?
I was this close to extending the trip today because I had a feeling that tonight's Raw after Mania was going to make up for night one of WrestleMania. And I talked to the missus. The missus said, "You are out of your mind. I want to go home. Get your butt in that car, and you better put your pedal to the metal." So I said, "Yes, Queen. We're on the road. We're not on the road to WrestleMania now. We're on the road home." I want a really, really good Monday Night Raw tonight. I would like to see 2 NXT call-ups tonight. That's all I want. I'm not asking for more than that. I want 2 NXT call-ups tonight. The one man, his name has been floating around, all ego. If I don't see Ethan Page on Raw tonight, I will be upset because there's nothing left for him to do in NXT. It's time to put him on Raw. And the other person I would really, really like to see, Blake Monroe tonight on Monday Night Raw. I would like to see Blake Monroe.
Wow.
I would like to see him. I would like to see her.
I would love to see Blake Monroe. It's time for her.
It's time.
That would be really incredible. I feel like you need to set Roman's next challenger up. Maybe this is when you bring the bloodline back into full circle, or maybe this is when you have somebody just step up to Roman that we haven't seen before, but not Oba. Not Oba. Way too early. Don't even go there.
No. I think Oba, after the post conference yesterday, the press conference after the show, Oba will probably be one of Roman's competitors. I think Oba and Roman is your SummerSlam marquee.
I don't even know if I do it that early, but
I
with
would.
with how quickly Brock Lesnar ascended, in WWE. I mean, he debuted in the spring and then had a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. Maybe they are doing this. Jason's asking, do you guys think Jelly Roll and Speed guys hurt the sport too gimmicky? These non-wrestling guys. Rome responds, I don't mind the guys like Speed and Logan. I'll pass on Jelly Roll. Speed and Logan are at least athletes. One of the better spots was I Show Speed.
Yeah, that was the only reason. The only reason that match didn't get an F in my book was because of the I Show Speed splash. That got a solid
after
D.
the match.
That was a D on my ratings. Obviously tonight, Monday Night Raw. Obviously we're a little over here, but Oba Femi is starting the show, and that is the right decision tonight. That is the right decision.
Okay, Oba Femi starting the show. Mike, thank you so much for staying on with us afterwards. Thank you, King Rome, for hopping on today. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching this live Drop the Mic, recapping WrestleMania right before Monday Night Raw. Let's go watch Oba.
Oba.
All right, guys, appreciate you so much. Main Event Mike's closing the show. Drop the Mic. We'll be back for our regular show on Wednesday. We'll be back for our regular show on Wednesday. So everybody enjoy the show.